Hello and welcome to the Railroad Crossing Signals 101, where we will be talking to you about the importance of railroad crossing safety. As you can see, a train is approaching the crossing here in Fosterville, Pennsylvania. You can hear this and see the crossing gates going down. You can also hear the train horn sounding as well. But what happens if you ignore these signs and warnings and decide that you can beat the train because you think it's moving slow enough? Well, it doesn't turn out like you think it would, with you crossing right before the train, just like all the action movies. Chances are, all you will see is this view. That's right, you'll find yourself underneath the 1,000-ton metal behemoth. But why is this the case? Why can't a train stop like a car? Well, Dr. Norris will explain this in a very fast function.
As we will discover from this brief lecture, the stopping distance is highly dependent on the coefficient of friction between the rails and the wheels. In this example, we will be using a nice round number of 0.2 for the coefficient of friction, which is symbolized by the Greek letter mu. This is the ratio of the lateral resistance an object affords as a percentage of the normal force exerted by the object. For instance, if we had a 100-pound box with a coefficient of friction of 0.2, then we could push on the side of the box with 20 pounds of force before it would slide. Using some common weights for freight trains of two 400,000-pound locomotives and 100 286,000-pound cars, we end up with a gross weight of 29,400,000 pounds, which can, under our theoretical circumstance, exert a braking force of 5,880,000 pounds. Now that we know the weight and potential braking force, we can draw on Newton's experience to find the deceleration associated with these forces. Of course, his equation is F equals ma, force equals mass times acceleration. We can rearrange this so that acceleration is equal to force over mass. Solving this equation, we get a deceleration of 6.44 feet per second squared, which is a fifth of a g, by the way. While traveling at 60 miles per hour and decelerating at this rate results in a stopping time of 13.7 seconds. Finally, using another basic physics equation, we can use this information to find our distance traveled during stopping, which amounts to 1,810 feet of stopping distance, or around 1/3 of a mile.
As stated by Dr. Norris, it takes a full loaded train to come to a complete stop in 1/3 of a mile. In comparison with the next largest thing that we encounter on the roads, with an 18-wheeler traveling at 60 miles per hour, for it to come to a complete stop, it takes 335 feet. The next largest thing would be a pickup, and from 60 to 100, it takes it 135 feet to come to a complete stop. That's a lot of braking force for a train to come to a complete stop, even with all its brakes applied.
But how does a train set off the crossing? Well, here we see a class out on the tracks demonstrating how a train sets off the crossing to warn drivers that he is coming. Notice how the professor and his student place a metal strip across the rails. Please do not try this at home. The professor moves one part of the metal strip across one of the rails, creating a current between the rails, setting off the lights and bells so that the drivers know that the train is approaching the crossing. Notice that the vehicles go across the crossing at a fairly fast speed. As you can tell, that this is why crossings go off so early, giving drivers ample time to stop safely. Take a look around to see what exactly is going on in this clip. As stated before, do not try this at home or on the tracks. Always expect a train.
As you can see, the professor and his student moved the metal strip from one block to the other. Once the train enters the crossing gate signal block, the crossing gates sound, warning the drivers that a train is approaching and for them to stop. Take a look around and see all the components of the track as well. If you look down, you can see the ties, ballast, fasteners, and spikes. This has been shot in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, on the Everett Railroad. Thanks to them for all their help in this video.
As you can see, this is what is inside a crossing gate box. Pause the video to get a full look around. Each one of these electronics shown is a vital part of the signaling system of the railroad crossing.
As stated before, what happens if you decide to outrun a train? Well, this is what happens to your car. Notice how the train barely feels the impact. Also notice that this is a single locomotive and it still took a long time for it to come to a complete stop. Here's what it would look like if you decide to outrun a train from an inside point of view. And this is what happens to your daughter in the back seat. Notice how little Sophie is thrown from her car seat and underneath the train. This is the view from the locomotive, giving you a comparison of how big the locomotive is to you. See how the camera barely shakes a little bit when the car is hit, but the engineer doesn't even know where the car is. Thanks to the Aberdeen, Caroline, and Western Railway and Operation Lifesaver for staging this crash for educational purposes. No dummies were harmed in the making of this video. Other vehicles have to take extra precautions, such as trucks carrying hazmat and school buses. Here we see both are crossing along Sugar Run Road. Observe as both stop and look for a train, even though the crossing gates are not down. This is a step everyone should do at crossings, but not everyone has time for, as you can tell by the SUV.
So what should you do at a crossing when the lights come on? As we demonstrate here in Fostoria, you should always approach the gates at a slow speed and stop. Do not even attempt to outrun the train because you will lose every single time. Notice how I am in the background in my car as the gates are going down. As I approach the gates, the train has not arrived yet, but I still stop at the gate. That is because you never attempt to try to cross the gates when the gates are down, because you will lose every single time. Always wait until the train is passed and the gates are off and up. Only after these steps can you cross safely, as you never know if another train is coming from the opposite direction. But as always, you should always remember to stop, look, and listen whenever you're at a railroad crossing.
If you've ever wondered what a train's point of view is as it approaches a crossing, here it is. As you can see by Dr. Norris, we are just walking along the tracks here in Hollidaysburg again on the Everett Railroad. We are doing this safely as we have a flagman and we have a track warrant to be out on these tracks. Again, do not try this at home, nor on active tracks or even abandoned tracks, as you never know when a train is going to be coming. In summary, whenever you see a railroad crossing, always think of a train. No matter how long the train's been gone, or if the train has just passed, because you never know when a train is coming. Because no one wants to be in a 1,000-ton behemoth, as you can see in this video. Thank you for the Everett Railroad again for providing us with this clip. And always be safe around tracks and always think of trains. And thank you for watching our video.